I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse.
We're Cannabis School. Having cannabis-infused conversations
with everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
Welcome to the Sesh.
Welcome to the Sesh.
Yeah, welcome.
We have Riley Kirk, or CannabiChem, from Social, and she's got her own podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that is right. Tell us all about your podcast real quick so everybody can start subbing to it right now.
Sure. Yeah, it's relatively new. I started it kind of the fall of last year, but it's called Bioactive, and it's about how cannabis, cannabinoids, and other medicinal plants interact with your body, and how we can kind of use that information to dose better or to find a better consumption method, and just taking community stories as well from different researchers, patients, etc. And just having like low-level conversations, nothing too crazy, but it really is science-focused and harm reduction-focused. Just trying to give people the resources that maybe they haven't had in the past, because there hasn't really been a way for that lower barrier of entry to get into that realm of science.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This is awesome. This is going to be my new podcast.
Yeah, actually listening to a good handful.
Yeah, I have an episode coming out today on using nutrients for your cannabis grow, but it's like from step one of like, why do we put nutrients on plants?
Dude.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, good news for you.
So is that one going to be more of a series, or is it just a short, like a one spot?
I would like it to get more complex. So this is kind of for beginner growers, but I would love to have somebody on who talks about like the more rigorous science component of that too, because my listeners, there's a kind of a huge spectrum of people who have never grown a plant, people who are growing for the first time, and people who are like expert cultivators. So I want to make sure I can provide a little information for everyone.
Oh, that's cool. We actually had a really good guest on recently for that would be a good fit.
Cool.
He actually creates a carbon-based fertilizer for cannabis plants.
Yeah, and the results he's had is insane, to the point where they were talking about where sticks and stems were being harvested for trichomes that were all over the plant.
Oh, they were getting, what was it? It was A-grade pulls from sticks and stems for concentrate. Yeah, no, they're getting...
What? That is so unheard of. That's crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah. So
cool. I'm going to listen to that. How exciting.
Yeah, really cool. We'll connect you guys. I think it would be really...
Yeah, that would be great. For your show and for your listeners, that would be fantastic. Because, I mean, honestly, I was getting geared up for it because I love the depths of science, but I was like, oh, it's just going to be a science guy. And I'm like, it's going to be rough.
But it wasn't.
It was so cool.
Yeah, it was entertaining as hell.
So cool.
Because we've had like science people that we've talked to sometimes, and we're like, oh God. Like,
oh yeah, it's
this
really
is rough.
Like,
I love it. This is great, but you're not speaking on anyone's level unless you have like this tier.
Yeah,
and most people out there aren't at that level. So if you want any of them to have an understanding...
Yeah, there's a difference between science and science communication. And like scientists are not taught to communicate their science with the general public. We're taught to communicate it with a bunch of people with massive egos. And we have to use these really big words and like present ourselves really, sophisticated. But that only works in academia and some industrial settings. But most people who like care about that science are just general people, and we need to find ways to connect the general consumers with the science in ways that aren't intimidating and push people away from science.
So being in your field, and really quick, tell our listeners exactly what your background is and what your specialties are and where you see going into the future.
Yeah, for sure. So my background is a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences, but I specialize in what's called natural product chemistry and understanding the chemistry that plants, fungi, bacteria, microbes, all of these different organisms make, and how we can use them as medicine and how they've traditionally been used as medicine. So if anybody out there doesn't know, about 60% of pharmaceutical drugs come from nature. Nature is the best organic chemist in the world, and nature synthesizes compounds specifically to interact with animals, typically insects or herbivores that are trying to eat it. So when we think about human medicine, we're not that far removed from a deer or even something like an insect. So that's really like what my background's in. And currently, I focus on a lot of different things, but I'm the co-founder of a cannabis research and education nonprofit called the Network of Applied Pharmacognosy, or NAP. And essentially, we're focusing on bridging community data because we believe that cannabis consumers are the experts in this medicine, but we've never leveraged that information. So we want to study cannabis consumers and what we're already doing, but also doing the biochemical laboratory work to kind of validate those studies and use a combined approach to kind of get behind some of these nuances in cannabis medicine that we can't even try to get to with just laboratory work alone. There's so much more complexity to that. So we want to tell a better story that represents cannabis consumers better by using a combination of different data types and telling more of a story with cannabis medicine.
Wow. So right now you guys are gathering individuals to be able to perform these studies.
We already have studies going. We have a study with over 7,000 participants that's looking at daily cannabis use. So that study, we're actually getting ready to publish it, but it is a study that's just going to keep going on for hopefully forever, so we can see how patterns and use change over time. But essentially, we're just asking people like, hey, what time do you dose yourself for the first time? What consumption method are you using? What product types are you using? Do you have a chronic issue, or are you using more in an adult use recreational way? Just asking really basic questions. And the data has been really cool so far. We found that about 90% of people are daily consumers, which was really shocking to a lot of people, but not that shocking to us. I mean, we know that like cannabis is a medicine, and it, like with any other medicine, we wouldn't expect people to take 2 days on of the medicine, 4 days off, one day
Right.
on, one day off. It's like reaching that steady state, that baseline that we're looking for. And being a daily cannabis user makes sense from that medicinal perspective. We also have some really cool data on cannabis and driving. About 64% of people use cannabis and drive, and about 60% of people wake and bake. Which again is like a little shocking to some people, but it's really validating to a lot of cannabis consumers who always felt they had to hide their use or couldn't be open about it. And now they have this statistic and what's going to soon be a peer-reviewed study that they can, show their mom, show their physician and say, hey, I'm not alone here. There's a whole community that has a similar brain like me and reacts to this medicine in a positive way.
That's cool. And you have been on your cannabis journey for a long time now.
Yeah, like personally, I started using cannabis at 14, but when I started talking about cannabis, it was really during the pandemic because I was teaching. I was the TA for a course on cannabis chemistry and pharmacology. And it was through a university, and the university was charging like $7,000 for people to take this course. And I'm someone who's like, information should be free, science should be free, everything should be free. So, after seeing this, I'm like, why doesn't everybody have these resources to learn about how cannabis works in the body? Like, this is such cool information that I've never seen like actually disseminated to the public. So then, pandemic's kind of starting at this point. People are starting to work from home more. I'm a scientist. I don't have that much to do at home. So I started making TikToks, just talking about the chemistry and pharmacology of how cannabis works in the body. And, people were just grabbing at that information. They wanted it so bad, and they wanted it presented in an entertaining way. And, that channel took off. It's still existing to this day, but, I've expanded to Instagram, to YouTube, and to podcasting now. So I just try to produce as much free information as possible.
And your TikTok has like 420,000 followers, right?
Yeah,
I just like it because of the number, obviously.
That's crazy. That's serendipitous,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's just a beautiful
420, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, now I just delete followers to stay at 420. No.
Yeah, we had to try and add her like 3 times, and then she's like, oh shit, drop someone else.
Fine.
So, it worked out.
I guess we'll get rid of Cheech and Chong. She just pushed them aside to bring us in. How sweet is she? She's amazing. No, I am just baffled by the amount of and that's just the way it needs to be. This data needs to be able to be gathered from uncontrolled source where, I mean, you just have, I mean, not an uncontrolled, but a controlled area where you can be able to go, okay, well, let's actually see if these people are going to be open. And since it's not going to be published like publicly with each individual and who was in the study, that's amazing to be able to hear about it. 90%
Are daily consumers.
That's freaking awesome, right?
So
60%.
there's also another part to kind of what you're talking about here. And this part, I think, is maybe the most important. And it's the component of trust within the cannabis community, especially with research, right? There are currently government studies out right now, government-funded studies that are trying to ask cannabis consumers these questions, and they have difficulty getting people to sign up and being honest in these surveys because the government has targeted our population for decades. And why on earth would we answer to the government and tell them exactly what products we're using and what dose and what time of day and share all that valuable information when they've really provided nothing for us? So it's like, we need this research to happen from within the community, from people who openly blaze all the time on the internet, at conferences, at home, whenever it is. Like, I smoke weed every single day and I'm very open about it. And that's who people want to like give their data to, and, you know, say like, I trust you with this data and I trust that you're not going to manipulate it or present it in a way that's not representative of our community. So, you know, that part alone has really been an eye opener for us because we are really loud on the internet about what we do because we don't believe we should have to hide it. We don't believe we should have to, you know, hide our cannabis use or lie about it. So we're kind of setting that standard and hoping that people kind of follow along and want to participate in this research for those reasons.
Jeez.
Yeah, what's been one of the most unusual uses of cannabis that you found in your research?
Oh, that's a really good question. Unusual uses of cannabis. I mean, something that's probably the most stigmatized is the use for mental health conditions like schizophrenia. And, you know, everybody says that if you have a family history of schizophrenia to stay away from cannabis. But if you look at the data, and if you even look at the data that we're collecting, people who have schizophrenia and use low doses of THC and a lot of CBD, actually their mental health is typically better than people who don't. There's people with schizophrenia tend to use cannabis a lot. Like there's a lot of overlap there. And in no way am I advocating for people with this genetic background to just dive into cannabis. But it's important to note that, like, even though it's stigmatized and a lot of people think that nobody with schizophrenia should be using cannabis, the data says that people still are, and it's worth researching more because these people are finding positives, or at least a subset of that population is finding positives in this medicine. And it's really the high doses of THC that can cause something like psychosis or adverse mental health effects, whereas something like CBD can really help reduce inflammation in your brain, and it can help with some of the symptomology of something like schizophrenia. So it's just, again, adding nuance into that conversation and talking about dose and talking about active compounds, not just saying weed is weed is weed. It's all the same. Just smoke it and you'll feel the same as everyone else. It's like, no, like, as educated consumers, we have control over our dose. We have control over what active compounds we're putting into our body, what time of day. And the more that we can have those conversations openly, that's really where the harm reduction comes in, because we can teach people that you can use CBD products and you don't need THC and you can still have benefits to that medicine.
Well, it's even people who aren't schizophrenic. Everyone can see the biphasic properties of cannabis, you know, low doses versus high doses, going, oh, shoot, this makes me feel great. This makes me feel crazy, paranoid, and anxious. You know, it's the same exact thing going, okay, what is the dose of medication? I'm sure any medication giving to anyone in their incorrect dose would cause horrible side effects, whether it's schizophrenia, paranoia, anxiety, depression, or whatever. You know, there's always a proper dose for.
And I did 10 years in psych. So working with severely mentally ill people for the state, this is the place where they send them because nobody else will take them, or the jail's like, we're not dealing with this. But working with those individuals, you would see throughout there, because I would be involved in every single patient's treatment plans. And it was amazing to see exactly, I mean, now reflecting back, because back then it was just like pots for fun. We do it on the weekends. You know, it's not something openly talked about. And a lot of these patients' records were coming, they would use cannabis frequently. And the cannabis then, which this is quite a while ago, but cannabis then is completely different to the cannabis now because of the the science that's going into the grows and understanding exactly everything down to the plant, not just I put it in the ground and I put water on it and thus it grows. Like it's completely changed. And I would like to see it because I have always wondered that because I had worked with some very severely schizophrenic people and I could see the wrong strain or the right or the right combination, the wrong combinations of terpenes and cannabinoids would definitely affect that. Absolutely. I mean, there's been strains we smoked together where I'm just like, oh shit, I am not in a good place. I am so paranoid and I am freaking out. And it's just learning that. And if we have more studies, even going deeper into that one, then we're being able to start doing what you've talked about before. Like, wouldn't it be great if I had a way, a process to be able to go, these are the right terpenes for me.
Yeah, like endocannabinoid deficiencies. Like if we could look at that and go, hey, what is this person's endocannabinoid deficient in? And craft a strain, a tincture, a vaporizer, whatever it is, around that person's specific needs. Like but I don't think the science is quite there. We don't have that put out to do that. But I feel like that is where I would love to see cannabis get to. But again, that's down the road and how we need to open the doors for more research and for allowing those things. But even like you've talked on one of your videos, the Schedule 3 doesn't really allow the cannabis research to change because there's already in place other laws surrounding cannabis and research specifically. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to note, like, there are companies out there right now who are taking people's DNA and trying to formulate products for exactly what you're talking about. And I just want to put a word of caution out to the listeners that I strongly believe our science is not there yet, and I would not support these products yet. I'm not saying that in 10 years we won't have that information, but I think right now it's more of a marketing thing and less of a medical thing. So just a word of caution there, because another thing to remember about your endocannabinoid system, it's very, very dynamic. It changes throughout the day. It changes through your age. It changes through hormonal cycles. It is always, always changing. So to be able to formulate a product to fix your needs based on your ECS levels, it's going to be really difficult. That's not to say people with clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, if you have chronic migraines, if you have inflammatory bowel conditions, if you have fibromyalgia, then yeah, like supplementing your body with cannabinoids is absolutely going to help. But for the fluctuations in the day, I mean, the reason why that wake and bake data was really interesting to us is because your endocannabinoid levels are at the lowest in the morning. So when you smoke in the morning, that wake and bake hits really, really hard because there's nothing else competing for the receptors in your brain. It's just like a one-way ticket for THC to slide in there. Whereas later in the day, say around noon, when your endocannabinoid levels are higher, now you have competition at that receptor. So when you smoke, it doesn't hit as hard, it doesn't hit as fast. You feel a difference from consuming in the morning versus consuming at night. And also just the point about like personalized terpene profiles, I think that's something we definitely need to study, and maybe we can match it with like neurotypes, the types of brains that we have and how people respond to things based on their level of anxiety or PTSD or, their age or whatever that is. Because I say this all the time on the internet, but my favorite strains would give most people a panic attack. Like I love the strains like terpinolene rich, pinene rich, like the ones that like often make people really anxious.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that like itch my brain in the right way and make me feel great. But I always warn people when I roll something up, I'm like, take one puff and like see how you feel. Do not chief on this because you will likely get a little anxious. So just like, take it stepwise.
Yeah. Aside from Jack Herrera, what are your other favorite go-to strains?
Oh, I'm a big Jack fan. Love Jack.
Me too. I love Durban. Love Durban Poison. I love the strain Kiwi. If you've ever tried Kiwi,
no,
Kiwi's really nice too. Yeah, kind of. Those are my favorite. The terpinolene is my favorite. Like if I can find a strain with terpinolene, I'm going to find it, grow it, buy it, whatever I can do there. But I'm not really sensitive to certain strains making me feel great versus not. THC reacts really well with my body. It always has. I have seizure conditions, and I think that's kind of part of that story. But to each their own. But for me, I have like kind of an ADHD brain, so anything that kind of is too stimulating for most people is just like the right amount of productivity for me.
Yeah, I found this amazing focus with green crack that
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't expecting with it. And it's been one of my favorite strains this last little bit.
The Tropicana cherries, this was a cool experience. My first time with it. I mean, just reddish purple bud. I mean, the flower was so, and it was beautiful. It's beautiful. But I had it one time. I was writing an SOP for this company I was working with, and I was like, I'm just gonna puff on this. This would be really good. And I have it, and boom, I only had like half a bowl, and I was jazzed up, and I wrote this whole like 16-page SOP in an hour. And I was like, well, this is awesome. But then I think, I should have a full bowl. So I'm having a full bowl and a half, and I'm still pretty sensitive, even after all this time. And full, I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started kind of like panicking. I'm like, crap. So I go to the fridge. I start loading up on lemon juice and CBD, and I'm bringing it down. And I'm like, why is this there? It has a lot of beta carotene in it. And it just got into the nasal passages and to the membranes in there, and it just squeezed it. I was like, oh my gosh, but so awake. So that's interesting. So for terpinolene, for you, that is an ADHD like viber. It just gets you dialed in.
Yeah, like it's my preferred medicine. Like exactly what you're talking about. If I need to write a paper, if I need to clean the house, if I need to do anything where it's like I need to be productive, terpinolene is like Adderall to my brain. It like makes me work so efficiently.
There you go.
Oh my. Okay.
So for all you Adderall lovers, check out terpinolene.
Yeah, now I'm definitely in that. So, oh my gosh, because I've been really. Yeah. Go.
Oh,
Please.
I was just going to say about anxiety too. I think something that's overlooked a lot in cannabis is set and setting matter a lot in cannabis. We always talk about it in psychedelics, right? But if you're smoking at home on something and you're just used to smoking at home, you're very comfortable, you have your animals, you have your plants, you have everything there. If you go to a different setting where maybe it's much more social. I remember like one time I was giving a talk somewhere and I had smoked a strain I was super familiar with, but I smoked it right before and I'm about to give a talk and I'm like, I can't do this right now. Like I need to take a walk. I need to take a break. I was with my husband. I'm like, can we like drive away and like go get like a Gatorade and get some fresh air? And we took, 25 minutes and calmed down. But I was like, whoa, that was really interesting because this strain has never given me anxiety, but I'm already nervous for what I'm about to do. And it just exacerbated the anxiety and made it so much worse.
It's that fluctuating ECS then, ever changing, and where one thing might affect it the same and then hours later or different location, different set and setting.
No, I never thought about that time of day. And that does make a lot of sense because it's definitely what you stated, you set and setting, because I started to have those things where I started to lean more towards limonene and Linalool for a really calming effect, even if it was sativa. And that was my judgment, but I didn't think about terpinolene. And now I am. I love it. But terpinolene, that makes a lot of sense because there are times I'm severe ADHD. Like I'm so disorganized. I am good at what I do. I'm just disorganized as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon knows this. It's a mess. You see the side of my bed and my fucking nightstand. Like it's just a mess. But it's my mess. It's organized mess. But whenever I have a strain that helps me to focus and just get things done, like it's surprising to other people when I work with them. They're like, "So you smoke?" And I was like, "Yeah, when? Every day. When? I don't know, what time is it right now? Yeah, I did about an hour ago." And they're just blown away. They're like, "How do you function?" It's this misconception that so many of us still have that is like it's just going to dumb me down and slow me down. It's not always the case.
My brother. I've got a very straight-laced brother, and he tried cannabis for the first time. And my cousin decided to let him take a hit on a bong, and he got I wouldn't say really high, but he probably got high. And he,
for a second, and then went
for a
straight
little
to
bit.
paranoia.
And then he was like, how do I get this to stop in the next 10 to 15 minutes? And I was like, bro, you don't. I can give you CBD and lemon juice and will help,
Yeah.
mitigate that some, but this doesn't end in 10, 15 minutes. But for him, it was this, he doesn't like not being in control, and he felt like he wasn't in control. And I was like, interesting. What do you not feel in control of? But then he would disassociate and go to his phone or something and come back a little bit later. I'm like, all right, well, we'll talk about this later when you're not high. So.
Yeah, that's a problem for a lot of people. And for someone like that who might be really sensitive to THC and not want to get out of control, I always recommend smoking CBD flower. And everyone's like, that's so lame. You don't feel anything. Like, what a waste of time. But it's not true. Like when you smoke CBD flower, the smoking process actually produces little bits of THC. And that combined with the 0.3% threshold that's already in hemp, you can feel the effects from smoking CBD flower. And people who are very naive to cannabis will definitely feel a little bit high from smoking CBD flower, but it's not the overwhelming high because it's mostly CBD with like microdosing THC. So for my husband, who is the same way, he does not like to feel out of control. He does not like to feel high. He smokes CBD flower, he smokes CBG flower. And like, honestly, we probably feel kind of similar after I smoke a THC joint and he smokes a CBD joint because he's so sensitive to it and I'm not sensitive at all to it. So it's like, I think finding quality smokable CBD flower is something that's, I'm going to say relatively new, because for a long time, CBD just looked like hay and nobody wanted to smoke it. It was just gross.
Do you have a cultivar for that you like?
So the person that I like to support is Dr. Allison Justice, who grows in South Carolina. She's a very talented craft hemp cultivator, and I love smoking her flower. It's super terpy. It has like 4% terps. It's very flavorful. So, I highly recommend, checking her out if you're looking into some quality smokable CBD flower.
Yeah, we found another one too, Stony Branch Farms.
Out in the Midwest.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but they had this blueberry
waffles.
Oh
my gosh.
And it's got that blueberry
taste, the blueberries. Like it was.
I'm writing it down.
It was like smoking some of the like OG blueberry strains.
Yeah, it really was. But it was so much more pungent. I mean, and it was different because I know that feeling of, dude, I'm not smoking hemp. That's lame. And it's just, because it's like when you're smoking hemp, you're smoking hemp. Like there's no, you're not like, oh, this is a really good flavor.
And
like,
it's usually rougher,
this tastes like
depending on the cultivar.
You feel it in your throat. It's like
I'm smoking rope.
It's literally, I've had some rough experiences with hemp.
But this one was so different. And the reason why it was even cooler because
it was like smoking flower.
Well, we smoked a lot because we wanted to do a whole test on, when you use CBD flower, it's actually going to bring it down. And so we got really high before we got set up for this episode. And we smoked this hemp and the blueberry waffles, and it was amazing. It was like somebody pulled a cork out of my taint, and then it just started to slowly go down. Wow. You could feel it. Yeah. Dude, it was like, what, 10
pulls
minutes?
It down out of your head and that.
Yeah, and it's like
just relaxed in your body and stuff.
Thinking back on it, thinking of like a pitcher of cold water being poured over you, but you're really hot. And it just slowly, that's what it felt. It felt like we were melting. We were melting the high away.
That feeling of water dumping over your head. Every time I go to the lake, I bring like a cup and I just dump water on my head because it feels so good.
See, now I hit that there. You're going to be like, I need that kind of flower because that's like, it's so amazing. And you're right. Good. And it's way overlooked. Like typically CBD, like I consume CBD in a tincture. Brandon typically consumes like that. But, I think I still have some of that blueberry waffles. I need to smoke that.
Mine disappeared very fast.
My consumption rate is so much lower than his, but I felt like I was getting pretty deep into it. But I love that you are bringing these studies to light because many of us cannabis consumers still have that in the back of our head going, this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing this. But when studies show that it's very normal, you shouldn't feel like you got to hide. Like all my kids know I use cannabis. Like even last night, my son was walking up to the front step. I'm outside with my vaporizer, looking at my phone, checking out video game things. His girlfriend's like, I'm like, what's up? She's like, nothing. And I'm like, I know you consume this too, so don't even judge. And she's just like, I'm just weird. That's just weird. And I'm like, it's weird.
You don't even see what you're doing, but it's such a valuable thing for younger people to see people just being open about it and not ashamed of it. It's not something to be ashamed about. Like it is a healthier way of medicating than almost any other medicines or escapism mechanisms that we have. So why aren't we embracing it? And especially as a cannabis community, telling each other like, oh, you can smoke hemp. Yeah, I've done it. You should try this brand. You should try this strain, whatever. Like having those conversations also just makes us look like a much more mature industry that is looking at it from a wellness perspective, not just a how fucked up can we get perspective. Because these conversations are really important.
Well, and it's no longer then the focus of what is the highest THC percentage. It's what is the best cannabinoid breakdown or terpene profile. Yes. What is that impact? What is the effect going to be for me? So it's no longer that indica sativa hybrid breakdown. No. It's no longer a, hey, we've got labeled as 35% THC, which it's probably not. Like,
there's a lot of messing with the numbers. Just like you said, marketing. It's just the marketing of it. It's trying to get you to use their product, and it really does come down to the cultivar. It comes down to the nutrients into the plant and the observation of the entire life cycle. Like it really is. It's such a delicate process. It's not
a dry and cure. So important for a quality smokable product.
But people don't. They think that it's just, I'm just here to get really high. There are so many different things. Like when I look at either my cartridges or I look at my flower or my concentrates, each one of them is like they're in a medicine box. That's why I consider it. And I'm like, what am I experiencing right now? I'm feeling this way. Okay, well, I'm going to use this type of strain to help with my gut. I've got a headache. I'm going to take this one. I'm nauseous, but I haven't eaten in days. Like, cool. I'm going to use this strain.
Yeah, and I think that mentality is kind of residual from prohibition, where it's like, oh, you just go to your plug and you ask for weed and then you get weed. Like it's not something where it's like, oh, what cultivar with what ratio of THC to CBD? Do you have any minor cannabinoids? Like we didn't know any of that. Like you got a bag of weed, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Right? Not like spice or something, or oregano.
No. Like oregano, I was thinking oregano. Like, dude, this shit looks like freeze dried broccoli. Like, nah, dude, it's fire.
Check the terps on this. It's oregano.
Oh, that'd be so spicy. Oh, I'd feel so bad if somebody smoked that. It's like that one guy.
Right, but like we didn't even know what a terpene was for so long. Like that conversation wasn't even happening for like a long, long time.
No.
And now it's like we're in this amazing world where we have a legal market and we have research and we have all this. And like now having the ability to communicate it back to people, like that's what people are striving for, is to actually understand this better, because cannabis is such a complex medicine when we compare it to our gold standard medicine, which is pharmaceutical medications, which are single isolated compounds produced synthetically. That's a lot different than a complex natural product where you have hundreds of different varieties or strains cultivated in different ways with different terroirs of soil, and we have different aroma profiles. Like there's so much more to think about with cannabis medicine, and a lot of people aren't used to thinking about their medicine in that complexity and being in charge of learning about their own body and their own medicine away from the traditional healthcare system. So we do need educators in this space that can help break down that and help say, okay, you're a medical patient for this reason. Like, check out these products, check out these cultivars. Like, this is what's happening in your body, and this is why cannabis is a medicine for you. Like, we need more of that information to just, like, we know cannabis is a medicine, but like bringing validity through science and education it's incredibly important.
I agree, because there's so much that even every person that we talk to who's outside of cannabis is like, oh, we need more research, we need this. And agreed, like there's always room for more data. There's always room for more information to perfect what we have. And it's been such a regulated or restricted substance for so long that we don't have lots of great data. We have some, and Israel's done some great research for us, and there's research that's gone around the world, but we don't have a great compiled collection of data at this point. So the research studies that you guys are doing, that sounds incredible. You said you have 7,000 people so far in the study or around there. Or is there a way that people can join this study or a site they can go to try and be part of that?
Yeah. If you go to my Instagram or TikTok or YouTube profile, if you click the link in my bio, the link is right there to participate in the study. Or you could go to appliedpharmacognosy.org, which is applied, pharmacognosy.org, and you can find the study link there. And just to the point of like, we don't have enough research. We have like 40,000 published papers on cannabis, cannabinoids, and the endocannabinoid system. I genuinely think what we're missing is one, practical research, which we are currently really not allowed to do. As we were kind of talking about in the beginning, because of a bill or an act that was initiated in 2022, we're really limited by the researchers that can participate in cannabis research and the materials that they can use. Even if you have a DEA license right now, you cannot walk into a dispensary, pull a bunch of products off the shelf or purchase them and then just study them. Like that, there's a huge limitation that we cannot study the products that people are actually putting into their body. And I cannot emphasize that enough. The products that we have to research are grown by typically universities, and the genetics of those products or that flower does not represent what people are actually putting into their body. So if we really want practical, tangible research, we need to be able to research the products that people are actually using and research the people who are using it. And then we can actually get to some answers. But right now we're kind of just doing this dance like around the legal infrastructure to help appease some people. But it's like, okay, why are we dumping millions of dollars into this study? And if the answer we're going to get from that study is still not that profound for figuring out any real questions that we
kind
have.
of irrelevant, because if you're not even testing the same products, then you're like, the data doesn't match what even is out there. So it's like testing apples and going, hey, this is what orange gives us. And you're like, that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Why are you spending money on that?
And it's to go back to what you said earlier. There are, when the government's over there, it's like it's the undercover cop coming to hang out with the other guys, going, "Hey, what it be, guys?" Or like, who's this guy? That's the way they're treating the government when they're ever wanting any type of open study. And it's funny you said that, because I was talking to a woman. She does payment processing, very unique in the cannabis industry, and she was going on. She asked me, how do I get into these circles? I'm like, well, first, do you use the product? She goes, no, never. And I'm like, good luck. Good luck. And I said, it's a tight-knit community. Even if I brought you in and I said, hey, you should listen to this lady. She goes, yeah, would that work? I'm like, no. They'd be like, well, I don't know her. I don't trust her. And it's because they have built this wall. They built this wall. We didn't build this wall. They totally did. And they just kept getting thicker and thicker. And just like, it's put so much distance between us. There needs to be that bridge in order for those. I mean, if that's what they need. But I think it's ridiculous that the government's doing that one instead of just subsidizing it and being able to give it to researchers like yourself to go in, hey, we need you to gather this information. And I think you're already on that way with the studies that you're already doing that are more focused on the consumer aspect, because that helps. I mean, we've always said that, right? In order for the laws to be able to change, we need more open consumers to be able to start asking for it. That's how Utah got passed. It was 70% of the voters in the state said, yes, we would like to have it legalized here for medicinal use. Cool.
Yeah, and like having the ability to also like use science as advocacy. Like data speaks the best when you're talking to a government organization, like a state, or a federal government. Like you need to be able to bring up numbers. And if we have that data in numbers, and we also have the communication aspect where we can share that with people for them to use for their own advocacy, that's kind of our goal through the nonprofit, is to empower people in that way, to be their own advocate, either with their physician, with their family, with their government, whatever it is. Like we provide the data, we provide the education, and then you can do, whatever you want with that.
So being a nonprofit, do you guys accept donations on your website as well?
Yeah, we do. And I also wanted to just put a note out there about, we don't necessarily vibe too well with what the government funds for studies, but the cannabis industry has been really great to us. We've worked with some really large companies, and we're still working with some large companies to help fund more relevant data kind of outside of these traditional academic systems. And we're incredibly thankful for that. Seeing these really, really, really large MSOs, or even just like edible companies that are operating throughout all of the states and maybe in other countries, they have a lot of money. And they also, it means a lot to us. And it also means a lot to our supporters to see them supporting our research in that way, and, wanting to expand it in a practical way, kind of for the people, not for the government.
I just get more and more educated each time. You think you know quite a bit about cannabis, but you really don't. And it's surprising to us how many consumers we meet that really have no idea what they're doing other than this makes me feel something.
Oh, yeah.
Good,
So many
bad,
have been
anxious.
like, hey, I've been listening and I didn't realize that there was a difference in weed. I've always, like you said, gone to my plug and just gotten weed.
Yeah.
Hey, do you
Weed,
have any
yeah.
weed? Yeah. And they think that it's all the same. And it's not. There's such a difference in even like cultivar to cultivar. Like the terpene profile, the cannabinoid breakdown, everything is drastically different, even in the same state. So you can really find that whatever cultivar fits best for you. And
Truly.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
I think there's a huge problem here, though, is that money for a lot of people. We always say, find the right strain for your brain, find the right cultivar. But a lot of people don't have like $200 to put towards trying all of these different
nope.
cultivars and strains to find which one works for them the best. So I really like seeing companies making that more accessible, whether it's making, quality pre-rolls, selling it in a pack of 5 with 5 different cultivars, so you can smoke them all and then figure out which one works best for you. Just able to like lower that barrier of entry, or using machine learning, using AI, using some sort of large data set to see what types of people react to things better. But when we think of this huge gap in information or education too, it's not surprising at all to me when I look at something like a COA, because COAs are not simple, like at all. Most of those words, nobody knows what they mean. If you're new to cannabis, like all of those words are just really long science words that nobody knows. And then they're reported in percentages like 0.5%, myrcene. And it's like, okay, like, is that a lot? Is that,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
not a lot? Like, what is that? What is that?
Like, what the hell is myrcene?
Yeah, so like we need
They're
ways
putting
to like,
dyes in it.
right, like that's fine for us as like educated people in the industry, consumer scientists, like we can look at that. But when we actually are trying to communicate to a new consumer, I think our industry needs to do a better job of presenting something like a COA in a way that's digestible to somebody who's relatively new to cannabis. And I know there's a lot of people working on this, but it's a massive, massive barrier in the industry.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because every COA that I look at, and it's still like, okay, cool, is this even accurately tested? And cool, yes, I'm looking
Right.
through it, but at the same time, like you said, it's like sciencey words for a lot of people. So it's like looking at the back of my ingredients bottle and going, why the fuck is this in there? I don't know what this is. Why is this in there? Does this belong in here? They're putting this in my weed? Yes, that just naturally occurs. You're fine. But it's this understanding and misconception. And if you don't have that knowledge, then it's like,
Well, I think most people
know what
who
you
look
don't know.
or even know what a COA is, they almost kind of look at it like, the Apple agreement you get with your update. You go, I'm not going to read this whole fucking thing. Yes. There we go. And they just go, well, it's got science and numbers on the back. Must be good for me. Open up the package,
Well,
right?
it's definitely weed.
Yeah, it's definitely. Look at that one, right? I mean, it's the same way that consumers are looking at the back of a cereal box. Like they're not looking about how much niacine's in there. They just want to see the protein and the sugar content. That's all they care about. So, like you said, it's bring it down to like a really basic understanding. And as we have dispensaries and other places like that. They're not the best place to get educated in cannabis. Most of these people have no idea what they're. So I just visited one of our good friends, Dragonfly Dispensaries here in Utah. I visited their dispensary just a little while ago. They got a brand new guy there, and I said, "Hey, we pretty much know everybody there now," and his new guy was there, and I was just like, yeah, man. I said, maybe you've heard my podcast. And I tell him, but he goes, oh, dude, that's what I need. I know nothing about this. And it's sad because it's like, well, what did you give him? Well, we gave him a crash course. We said, this is a plant. Do you use it? And you go, yep, cool. Don't use it while you're here. Get in front of the store. That's typically how it's done everywhere from what we've seen.
Yeah. It's sad because there's not a lot of education among a lot of bud tenders or people in the industry. And even there's a lot of companies that have reached out to us over the years. And there's been a lot that we've turned down because, again, we realize they're not consumers. They're not in the industry because they consume. They're just in the industry because they go, look, it's a cash cow. I can make a lot of money. And it's like, you're not in this industry. You don't even know the people. You don't know who your end users are. You don't truly connect with them. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and get high as shit. In fact, I don't support that for most people because it's finding proper dosing and stuff for them. And you don't have to get crazy high like your husband smoking CBD. He's not getting crazy high. Yeah, he might feel really nice. He's not getting crazy high. But he at least has an understanding of what that plant does.
Right.
Way better than someone who never consumes it at all. And those people, I'm like, I feel much better going, I'm sorry, we're just not going to have you on the show. Like, and it's not, like, it's not that they're bad people or bad companies. It's just, there's oftentimes, I think, a massive disconnect between people just coming into it trying to make money and those who are in it for the consumer.
And it's not to say that they couldn't come into that community, but there is a barrier to entry. And if you're just there, if they know that you're there just to make money, the consumers know that. The cannabis community knows that. They don't take kind to it. Not that they're going to be mean. I mean, far from it. They just like, I choose not to associate with you, sir. And that's it. But I don't know. I think it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish. I think it's even cooler to think about what the future. What are some of the future studies that you guys are going to be doing, if you can reveal that?
A lot of our future studies, at least in the laboratory, have to do with the endocannabinoid system, the enzymes, the receptors, and really understanding strain specificity with the ECS. So that's what we have a research space at Northeastern University where we do a lot of our research. So we'll be continuing to, I can't share too much about like what enzymes and what we're doing, but a lot of the hard science that we're going to be doing is involved in the ECS, but some of the current work we're doing, just advocacy work, is actually exactly what you guys are talking about. You know, talking to a bud tender, and there's so many companies within this industry that don't allow their employees to use cannabis while they work. And we're trying to actively start that conversation, asking why. Because if we're trying to set a standard and a precedence that cannabis is medicine and people need it for everyday use and it helps with social anxiety and it helps with so many things, if somebody does feel comfortable consuming cannabis at work, then we should be the industry that initiates that and does allow that. So we have an advocacy thing called Weird Brains, which is essentially talking about neurodivergent people within the cannabis space and how we can better accommodate within the cannabis space, because there's a lot of really beautifully weird people in cannabis, and we should be embracing that culture and embracing the cannabis part of that culture. And, you know, of course, there's some positions where no matter what, you're not going to be allowed to use cannabis during your daily tasks. But there's also a lot of positions that can be more accommodating. And we're just trying to start that conversation about what it's like hiring, you know, stoners, essentially. And should the cannabis consumer have to hide their cannabis consumption when they're working at a cannabis company? Like, a lot of people are still doing
ridiculous.
that. And we don't think that that's okay.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Had a little dab
we
right
support
now.
that.
No, please. We've been consuming.
Yeah. But it's the same way here. We live in a medical only state, meaning it is 100% only a medicine. So you have to be medically approved, and the reasons here are chronic pain is the most approved one. So you're telling me all these people who have chronic pain, because that's like probably at least 70 to 80% of our market. So then it's going, okay, so they're not allowed to use medicine during the day that they work.
Oh, and they can't drive either. They're not
Yeah.
allowed to
So,
drive to work,
yeah.
and they're not allowed to work, and they're not allowed to do anything to improve their quality of
But
life. They just
it's
have to stay home and
medicine.
rot.
You know, they
Yeah.
probably have higher numbers at like credit card companies in their customer service department. Everybody
yeah.
was baked.
Well, every time I go into Costa Vida for my kids, I see a thing and it's like, oh, we're hiring. Can you smile and roll a burrito? And I'm like, every stoner ever. Like, it's just rolling a joint and smiling. Like, oh, shit, I got this. How you doing? Roll this.
Yeah.
Like, how many?
Great.
Yeah.
Can I get you, man? Yeah. Yeah. That sounds great. Yeah. Tortilla. Which rice, man? Yeah. They're just always excited to make that meal. Like it would literally
When
turn a
I
lot of
managed accounts and when I had really shitty people that I had to deal with, it was so much better to take a toke before I went into the meeting because I was more capable of handling the bullshit, of keeping a level head, and just addressing the issues without going, man, now I'm getting stressed. No, I can just sit back and go, all right, cool. Let's talk this out. Let's listen through it. Like, and I've been able to do that through so many jobs. And again, like you said, there's not every job might be the best suited for that. There's definitely certain times that I'm doing things that I'm like, no, I feel okay at this level. I'm not okay at my normal level because I'm doing something that I don't feel like that would be smart. And usually that's involving like saws or something like that. And then I have a certain level
Heavy
that I'm like,
machinery, saws,
Yep.
something that's dangerous. Like we understand that component.
yeah,
For sure.
So I'm like, I don't want to chance any time distortion, delay, any hesitation. Like, I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking about juggling chainsaws, but yeah, I guess that's a no.
yeah,
I guess that's a no. Yeah. Just
I
like-
mean, you probably have different skills than I, so you do you.
Yeah,
I
but-
can't juggle. So.
No, but I think about that too. Like there are jobs, especially very monotonous jobs where we see a lot of that coming into. White collar jobs are starting to go away in mass droves. And it's going more towards production or, manual labor, which is a good turn as well, right? It is a really good turn. But some of these jobs absolutely blow, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
I was a rock mason, and I would have loved to have been high when I was a rock mason.
Oh yeah.
Because I would have been
That would've been
so
awesome, yeah.
artistic,
Yeah.
just shape that rock the way I want. That's a beautiful rock. A lot of love goes into that, and I think that's when you use cannabis, like anything that you're making, such as anything you do for work, like what you do, you love it. You absolutely love it. You're not like getting up going, pain in the ass job of getting people science, medicine.
I blaze all day, and my co-founder of the nonprofit, like every time we have to write papers or we have to write protocols or SOP, anything, like we use cannabis regularly as a productivity tool. Like we'll be like, oh, you want a sesh and like get a bunch done? Sure. And then that's just our intention going into that sesh. And we're so much more productive. We're so much more creative. We're so much more organic in what we produce that it is a business tool for us, which sounds kind of crazy, but like we've been so productive with what we've done in this nonprofit in the last year, and cannabis is a huge portion of that.
That's awesome. There's another company that we've heard out in California, and they have like cannabis and psilocybin at work that their employees can use while they're at work for productivity and stuff. And I'm like, that's really progressive. But like, how many people look at it and they're like, oh, and I was thinking about this the other day, just thinking about like the stoned ape theory and how they think that comes from mushrooms. So, okay, you're telling me that you think that a monkey got smarter from eating these mushrooms, and yet you're thinking that we should stay away from these mushrooms, or that they might not make you smarter or help you. Like, why would you, if that's a theory that you believe in any aspect, why would you think that it would be harmful for you if it made the monkey turn into what humans are?
And it's also like, this is back to the conversation of dose. And like, if we just understand that different doses cause us to feel and react to things differently, then, you know, we really understand medicine so much more. Like the company that you're talking about, they're probably not putting, you know, 4-gram capsules of psilocybin out there for everyone to just, you know, willy-nilly take during the day, because then all your employees are, you know, tripping balls, and that's not probably
off in
great for
space
productivity.
talking to God or something.
Like,
you're like, what?
Yeah, good luck looking at a computer. But like if they're, you know, 0.25, if they're microdoses, you know, that is the productivity, that's the social, that's the energy, that's the creative. And just even, I think you were so right about people taking these substances in order to understand them. 100% of people don't have to, but if you really do want to understand it, try a microdose of psilocybin. You're not going to be seeing things happening all around you and not be able to form words and not be able to do anything. You're just going to have like a more heightened effect on life. Things are going to be brighter. You're going to think a little differently. You're going to be a little more social. It's a really beautiful thing. And we can't attribute that microdose to what we're used to seeing with the macrodose. And macrodoses, they're therapeutic. There's a place for them. But like we're trying to like attribute the same feeling and experience with fully different doses. And it's a completely different experience.
Yeah. Microdoses for me, I feel like it's almost like being a kid again. Like colors are more vibrant, sounds are more like stimulating, and I just have this endless energy. And I'm like, oh shit, like I could go do all sorts of stuff. And then normal me is like, oh man, I'd be so tired right now.
What's your microdose?
I just do 0.1. I just do 1/10 of a gram.
Nice. Cool.
So between usually 0.1 to 0.15. So it's not usually too high.
I'll do 1 to 2. And being able to, I've done 3 before. It was
0.3.
0.3. It was decent. I mean, during the daytime. Any more than that, I start to feel a little too giggly. And I'm like, no, probably not the best for a business conversation right now. But I remember that I was at a business lunch and it all kicked in at once. And I was like, and he was asking me some complex questions and I'm like, fuck, what? I feel like that Tom and Jerry thing. Like you go, what?
That's beautiful.
That's like, oh shit. Yeah, and thinking about that too, microdosing. We've talked about that with cannabis, and you know, I actually a client that I'm working with right now. He had actually stated he's like, I need to be microdosing cannabis, and that's another thing that people don't think about is that you can microdose cannabis. You don't just have to get blazed high. There's a cool product called Mode that does dosing for 510 cartridges. So you can pop it into there and you can dose it from 1 to 5 milligrams. And you pull and it just, you see the counter go up. And when it hits that point, it stops. That's it. That's all you get. And that's really cool. On that side, it'd be cool to see that like in a vaporizer, but that's pretty hard. You got to bake the bowl, and I have no idea what you're pulling there. There's a graduation of when you use the product, and I think it's the weed back when you were 14 is totally different from today, and you can't smoke a joint with somebody feeling all right, depending on what you have in there, and this big push for high THC. Somebody's going to have a real bad experience. I think about your brother all the time. I'm like, man, that sucks. He had a bad time. Like, I don't know how that's possible. I remember when I was first getting back into it.
Yeah, but again,
it was not like
he's
that.
So straight, and I was thinking about it. He's so straight-laced. He doesn't utilize caffeine. He doesn't use anything.
No stimulants.
So he is not used to any distortion of his reality in the slightest. So to have all of a sudden a good amount of cannabis that was like,
it was a good amount.
This sent him in there and he was like, I can't do complex math problems. I'm like, you don't need to be doing complex math problems right now.
Did he have like an anxiety attack? Is that what it like resulted in essentially?
Not, I think a minor one, but in his mind more. It was just more, he was sitting there and he's like, I don't understand. He's like, now I could see how people could use this. Like if you didn't have a job and you didn't care about anything.
So sad.
So you just like whatever it did with his mind, it just made him feel so dumb and so disconnected or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's probably dosing. Again, you've never been distorted in like any sort of way.
It was a minor psychedelic experience that he was experiencing. I mean, I could understand that because
So
It's like the first time doing psilocybin. You're like, it's like my first time doing LSD. When I did that, it was back when I was getting out of the Navy, and I got 4 hits on sugar cubes, and it's my first time, and I didn't know what he gave me. He's just like, put this in your mouth, don't chew them. I'm like, all right. And then the carpet starts moving, and the trees are swaying, but there's no wind. And it was intense and lasts for 12 hours. It was quite remarkable. But when somebody has those experiences like that, like even at that dose, for them to, I don't know, I think there needs to be like a process that many times we sometimes forget as longtime consumers. With new consumers, it really needs to be a very baby step going through it and prepping
hemp.
them. Yeah. Like hemp, yeah, exactly. Like you're going to smoke this first. You might feel a little bit of these things, and then gradually, but teach them about that. Like, here's what the body's going to go through. Here's how you're going to experience these chemicals.
Then you can mix the hemp with the THC cannabis, type 1 cannabis, and slowly find your kind of perfect dose and titrate in. And I think that's like a great tool in like slowly getting used to it, because we often think of just like consuming a little bit and then a little bit more and then a little bit more. You can consume the same amount, but just control your ratio of hemp flower to THC dominant flower. And like you take the same amount, but control the level of active ingredients in that way. And also like back to the set and setting conversation that we were having and what you guys are talking about. I found with my husband, sometimes when he consumes cannabis, not at our house, like just like somewhere else, like on a nature walk or something, he reacts better, because like at our house, there's more of a chance of somebody stopping by or something happening where he does need to use his brain. But if we're kind of isolated in a situation where not much can go wrong, I think he reacts better to it, because he can just kind of enjoy the moment and not have to be like, what if this happens? What if this happens?
Because at home, there's all the regular everyday things that can occur. But if you're out in nature, you're, the
one thing I do find pretty cool with cannabis, though, is that even like say a dangerous situation arises, I find that my adrenaline kicks in right away, and it almost nullifies how I'm feeling. So it's not worried about those things. Like if you know that you're very sensitive to cannabis, guess what? Plan on not driving. Just plan on it. Yeah. But if you're pretty good with it, I mean, I'm always open. I'm like, yeah, I consume while before
like she
I go.
Said, over 60% of them are driving and consuming. Like
I'm in the 64%.
Yeah,
me
like,
too.
I'm there too, 100%. I'm open about it.
Well, it's when you consume all the time, and there was even a video study that was done with some UHP in some state, and they found that people were basically fine up to 1 gram of smoking, like this 1 gram joint. And it was like, okay, by that point of 1 gram, their reaction was a little bit slower, but for like the medical consumers or everyone else, it's like, you're okay.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, because you're putting them in a disassociated state, and they had no idea what they're getting into. They're like, here, you join this study here, smoke this and get behind the wheel. And they're like, and it's like some sweet old lady over there going, I've never tried the grass. And then she just starts driving, and she starts swerving all over the place. They're like, oh, see, ruined you. Check.
Oh my gosh. We were listening to some Frank Sinatra the other day, and my oldest was like, Dad, is grass weed? And I was like, yes, grass is weed. They were just like, okay, because it just come out in the song, and I'm like, oh yeah. But it's interesting, just all the different terms.
Well,
good.
Random high side
I was
tangent.
just gonna say, like we also don't get as high, because people with higher tolerances, daily consumers, we have less cannabinoid receptors because we've built a tolerance. So that like how we build tolerance is our body actually takes away some receptors so that we like literally don't feel the same amount as high. So it makes sense for this research, which I love that the study came out just showing that people with higher tolerances, that you don't have any implications for your to drive a motor vehicle. And I think we know that's true because we have a higher tolerance, and it's like we're more comfortable with so many different things happening while we're consuming cannabis that, as you guys are saying, it's not the same like fight or flight. I've never felt this way before. I don't know how to react in like that stressful situation, because we've lived our whole lives like this. Yeah. It's just our norm. Like we're used to it.
Well, it's been a couple of years, but I rode motorcycles for years, and I would consume. and then I would go ride. And for me, I become hyper aware. And then I notice, okay, this person, as I'm coming up on them, their eyes are looking down. They're probably on their phone. They're distracted. I'm going to adjust where I'm at in this lane. Like, I became hyper aware of everything then. I've never gotten an accident through then, but I've always consumed cannabis. And I've gotten in really weird instances that my bike's like done really scary shit. But again, you just become like so ingrained in that moment. But I think cannabis really allows that. It's allowed everything else to disappear that I can just, it literally became, the bike was an attachment of me and I would feel everything. So yeah, it's a very different experience when you can do that.
But and it's also to be self-aware on that, like know exactly where you are. Just like you stated, your dose, it has to be slowly figured out. Don't trust the bud tender going, these gummies are amazing, you should try them too, because you're not thinking about the ramifications of what you are consuming if you're new to it. If you're a legacy user, or at least I would say like a little over a couple years, usually that's when you feel a little bit more comfortable knowing a lot more about it. Like, really listen to your friends that do consume consistently. Listen to our podcast, listen to your podcast, where you're going to learn more about it in depth, where it's not so much of, I just use this to get high. Now you start looking at it as a medicine cabinet or a toolbox, because it truly is. It's either one, and you can utilize it in any way you want to. It's just taking the time and being really open about it. I think that's by far the most important thing, is being open about it. Because why hide it? Everybody who knows me, I have the joke going on all the time. People say, "What do you do?" I said, "I smoke pot for a living." "What do you do?" And they go, "Nah." You'd think that a lot of people, just as far as like what you would assume that people would be like, "Well, we're done talking here, sir." It's more on, so where do you get it? They're so open. They are really wanting to do this. And they're just got this weird stigma that they just can't let go of. They're afraid.
Yeah, and I also like, around the conversation of cannabis and driving, I think it's also very responsible for our community to understand that even as a seasoned cannabis user, you still can be too high to drive. Like, that's
totally.
Yeah.
As you were talking about, like, that 1 gram was the limit for most people. And like, for me, I used to not take a lot of dabs. I was just smoking flower. And then I'd rip a dab and be like having a borderline, like, just insane, overwhelming experience. I was still having a good time, but would I hop in a vehicle? Absolutely not. I didn't even think about doing that.
But as a consumer, that. I feel like most seasoned cannabis consumers feel that. And when I would get to that feeling of like, hey, I feel high, usually for me, that's when I don't feel okay to drive, is, hey, I feel high. I don't normally feel high. So for me, if I'm going, oh shit, I feel high, I'm not going to be driving. I'm not going to be behind the vehicle. I'm going to have like cannabis in my system, but that's way different than being high.
The classic, dude, I'm so high right now. If anyone says those exact words, they should not hop in a vehicle.
Yeah, they've stopped talking. They're not even snacking anymore. They're more or less just staring.
Yeah,
and slow moving.
I don't know.
Like, why are you moving so slow?
They might be a great passenger princess.
Yeah.
I remember going on a ride in the passenger seat on a microdose, or on like I guess more of a macrodose of psilocybin. But my buddies were going out and I was like, yeah, it might be fun to go on an adventure. And I'm like, but I don't want to drive. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I could. I'm like, but I'd chill in the seat. Like, I'd go cruise around. And I feel it's kind of the same way when you use cannabis and you actually feel high. You don't want to drive. Like, you're like, no, I'm okay. That doesn't sound good at all. I'd chill. Right. Like, we could go cruise, but I just want to sit there. I don't want to do the driving.
I'll play great music. I'll facilitate great conversation.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to be the one controlling the vehicle.
Yeah. But I feel like that's usually it's not the same confidence that alcohol gives you, that you're like, oh, yeah, no, I'm good. I can get behind it. You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, the I drive better when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
I remember these rednecks I hang out with all the time. The guy with the mullet, right? And he'd be like, dude, And he'd do that with the hair, just whip it around. I'm so much better driving when I'm drunk. Just give me a case of natties and I'm good to go. We just know that it's, I don't know, you become more in touch with yourself and who you are and where your limits are. And sometimes, I mean, there are individuals like some of the ones we talk about within social media. They used to be educational. Now they're just like, watch me do a 1 gram dab. Like,
watch me get as high as I can.
Yeah.
It's like,
stop doing that.
If I wanted to see someone get as high as they could, I think that would be me.
Yeah, that guy's going to be.
Why would I want to watch you get as high as you could? That sounds really fucking boring. Pass.
And they just, you just see them. They just look like Elvis Presley before he died. They're just like, they just make sounds. They don't really.
Have you guys greened out before?
I have a couple times.
No.
It's pretty uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. I greened out for the first time like just a few months ago. I was making canna butter for my parents because I make them caramels.
Yeah.
And I just like happened to be gifted a bunch of pierogies, and I was like, "Oh, sick! I'm gonna dip them in the butter." And then I ended up eating way too much butter, and then I got sick for the first time. I've heard of people like vomiting from using too much cannabis. I was vomiting. I was sick. The room was spinning like I had drank like a ton of alcohol and used a bunch of cannabis, spinning. Like I had to put on a weighted blanket and like literally just like sip water and like wait it out. It was very uncomfortable.
I think edibles would be the only thing that would maybe do that, but it would have to be close to like probably 1,000 milligrams. And it's been so long since I've done anything even remotely close to that.
I don't like edibles. I've never liked them. And then that experience made me say like, hey, maybe I just should never touch an edible again. Because no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had that. I've had one instance where I greened out. I had an edible before we hung out. We smoked a bunch of flower, and then we were messing with terpenes and dripping them
terpenes onto
on
the flower
top of the
to
bowl.
craft the experience.
We're like, dude, let's move the high around our faces, man. And it was like going to my forehead, and then it'd go to my cheeks, and then the back of my head, not knowing that I am overloading myself with so much shit. Like people go, oh yeah, the terpenes, that'll be fine. Like, no.
Was that also when we created the Moffics? Like those edibles that were twice the dose? Was that the time?
Yeah.
So did you have one of those that time?
Yeah, we called them
That's what it was.
We even wrote that on the box. The fuck.
Because it was accidentally a double dose, and for him that was way too high.
But it didn't kick in yet. And so we smoked. I felt fine. I'm like, all right, dude. Well, I'm going to take off. I'm going to go home. And I get in the car, and I get about 5 miles away from the house, and then I'm just like, where am I? I don't even... What the fuck? What's going on? And I didn't know what was going on. And I drove home just freaking out the whole time. I get home and I am a good actor. My wife goes, how's it going? I was like, pretty good. Hold on a second. Go downstairs. Call Brandon up. Freaking fuck out. I think I had too much. He's like, go have a bunch of CBD. Chill out. Go back on a half hour. You should be feeling fine. I'm like, all right. I tell my wife, she was sitting with our little ones at the time. I'm like, hey, I'll come in here and sit with the kids. You sure? Yeah. I just need to stay in one spot.
My gosh.
And then we had it on the show where we had what's it called? The little foggy.
Oh, the Zenko Duo.
So
Have you seen those?
You put
It looks like a little genie lamp, and it does concentrates or 510 threads.
So it's you start it up with a 510 inside of there in your cartridge, and then when you push the button, it'll heat up and it starts to slowly fill this wine glass with smoke. Now, it's taken per hit, though. The whole thing is equal to like about 30 hits.
It's a good amount of hits,
all at
probably.
once.
Dang.
On a concentrate. And so I had a quarter of it, and I go... And I'm like, it's really cool looking, too, because it's like you're sipping your smoke. And as soon as I hit that, I looked over at Brent.
Is wild.
Oh, I didn't even get close to that. I was like around 10, and I all of a sudden, like... We start getting into the show, and I'm like, "Oh no!"
He was freaking out.
Oh shit!
But that's the worst when you're being recorded and you're way too high. And you're
just thought about you on stage. You're like, "Nope, This isn't.
Not gonna do that.
Yeah, undo. Can I leave?
Oh, it was. But I mean, the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like,
Yeah,
but this is me. Yeah, dude. I think I'm freaking out. Like, it's just not. It's not good. Yeah. I mean, in my head though, it's totally different, and that's something to say too. Like, just because you're not showing it on the outside, like you're not convulsing and freaking out and running around, doesn't mean you're not having a bad time. It's horrible, just like you talked about, spinning, throwing up.
Yeah, and I love the feeling of being elevated. Like, I love my normal state, but the edible high is one, unpredictable, like for me, like different formulations, even like same dose, different formulation, different company will hit me different. And it's just like sedating to me, where I can smoke and like go do a bunch of stuff and I'm very like lively. Edibles just always make me lethargic, like sleepy, tired, like every single time.
I usually use edibles when I travel, because when I'm traveling, I know that if I'm road trips, if I'm in a car for a long period of time, I hurt. I have a cracked disc and I have a really messed up back, and I'm a really small guy, so I need to work out more and build that up, but my back always hurts. So when I go on road trips, I take 200 milligrams every 2 hours, and but I don't feel high. That's literally just like taking the edge off, and I could still puff on a pen or a vaporizer and not be high still. So edibles, usually for me, I don't ever use them because I'd have to have a ridiculous amount to actually feel high.
Insane.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's, we actually have really cool data on that too. When we took that survey with the, 5,000 people that we're going to publish, about 16% of people can't feel edibles, or it takes an extremely high amount to feel edibles. So that's like, I mean, we know that it has to do with your liver enzymes and how efficiently it can essentially process the THC, or if at all. But, there may be a way to also formulate around that, but we haven't really explored it because this data has never been published, that such a high percentage of the population doesn't metabolize edibles in the same pace that most people do.
I know I used to feel them a lot lower. I used to be able to feel 10 milligrams, 30 milligrams. I remember my first 100 milligram edible. That one was like a wild high at the time. But then over the years, 100 milligrams, it doesn't even touch me. We've had some company brought them on the show, and they're like, oh, here, took one right before, and then I took another one like an hour in, and they were sitting there and they're like,
corner.
You feeling it? And I'm like, I feel like a little tingling in my back, so I might be feeling it. And I'm like, but I'm honestly not sure because I don't really feel high at all.
That's insane. That is insane. Because we had out of all the social media posts that he put up, one of them, he visited a float tank and he's like, yeah, I just had a 250 milligram edible about to get into the float tank. And the comments were hilarious.
They were just like freaking out or something.
Oh, they're like, that'd be awesome to have
high.
a panic attack in space.
Because you go float around and you're weightless. It's dark. There's no you can turn off sound.
I've heard great things about the float
amazing.
tank.
You gotta do it.
But I want to. Yeah, they sound amazing.
Just get one of those places around there going, this is for science. And they go, okay. You'll be a part of it. We'll put you in the notes.
Yeah, they have True Rest float spas around the country. That's the franchise that's here that I went to. And they have some really cool ones.
Oh, yeah.
That's been a night. We did it once. Didn't you go?
I've done it several times.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's funny because it even has on the questionnaire, where did you hear about this? And it goes through all the other ones, and at the bottom, Joe Rogan. And everybody's like, yeah. It's like, you just got to float. And, get
I didn't even hear of it from him. It was some other friend of my ex-wife, and she had gone on a week-long silent meditation retreat. And I was like, that sounds wild. That sounds really cool, because I was a lot more into my meditative practice then. And she was telling me about this float spa. I was like, that sounds really cool. And she's like, you're weightless, you float around. It's kind of like, what I imagine floating in space would be like. And I was like, in my head, I'm just thinking, yeah, I'd totally smoke and go do that. And I've done that every single time. I end up being friends with the franchise owner there of the location, and came back and like microdosed psilocybin and did it. Ended up giving him psilocybin, and he did it in there. Like, just ended up being this really cool relationship that built through there. But if you haven't tried it, it's worth checking out. So
I actually know somebody who runs a business that has float tanks, and I'm
that's
going to
cool.
visit in like a week. So hopefully I can do it then. That sounds
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, that sounds way cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been probably a year. I need to go back and do it. It's a good time.
And psilocybin with water is always a amazing experience. Like one of my best mushroom trips ever was at the ocean and just like playing in the waves like a dolphin, just like, I mean, having the time of our lives playing in the water.
I
Like,
just had images
honestly,
of her.
10 out of 10. Oh, yeah. Everything you're picturing is exactly what happened. Like,
Okay, was this a microdose or was this a full dose?
this was somewhere in between.
Okay.
What like Shulgin would call like a museum dose. So like around like a gram, I'd say under 2 grams to me is that sort of medium dose.
Yeah. Okay. I went and saw John Mayer on like 1.5, and there was a minute that it was a bit intense. And so I just went up to the higher parts of the stands where there wasn't many people and just sat up there for about 20, 30 minutes and watched it. And it was amazing up there. And then I went back down and hung out with my friends and everyone else after. But
When I'm like in public doing mushrooms in any capacity, I actually almost do this every time anyways. I just stack my dose. I take 0.5 at a time so that the come up is like not as intense. You have a much more gentle come up, and you can again like titrate your dose so much easier. Because if your setting do change, or you're like, oh, I don't love the way I'm feeling, like you're not too far into it that you can't undo.
yeah.
Like usually you're still at a relatively comfortable level, and you can just be like, oh, I'm just simply not going to take more. And then that's
Yeah.
the end of that journey. You know, it's like I usually give myself just a lot of time to titrate because that's how personally my brain reacts best to psilocybin.
Yeah, I never did that when I was starting because no one taught me anything. I had a buddy who was like, oh, hey, you came back in, you're trying to process something. You definitely need a hero dose. And I was like, yeah, I probably do. And he's like, I'm going to make you a smoothie, okay? And I'm like, sure. I was like, he'll tell me how much was in it the next day. So I drank the smoothie and it ended up being like 6 grams. But that was not a, try and stair step or titrate anyway into things. It was just this is the journey you're going to have. And sometimes I feel like that is actually needed for
Man,
depending on the
your
experience.
entry into any of these things is like, like the dad over there going, son, you're going to learn how to swim. And then you throw him off the dock. It's like, Dad, I'm drowning. That's why you got to move
Look
your
out.
arms and
There's a
legs. Get on over here. Come to the sound of my voice. Like, that just sounds like crazy, dude. That's intense. Like, your buddy's like, for me, it was like
That wasn't my
it was
first
like
one.
1 gram was my first experience on psilocybin, and it was fantastic. I was playing my Switch. And my wife came over there. We had the most open conversation. She goes, what are you on? I'm like, oh, I ate these.
Yeah.
She's like, awesome.
I was
like you like
introduced to
this."
LSD before psilocybin.
Same.
And so, like, the LSD, kind of like yours, but a little different. My buddy was like, hey, April Fool's is coming up, and I'm going to sneak you guys LSD. You won't know because it's tasteless. I can put it on whatever food or in your drink or anything, and then you'll just be tripping.
That's not cool.
And I knew absolutely nothing about LSD. Oh, yeah. So I started researching it, and I was like, I found even like the government classification of how dangerous drugs are and stuff. And LSD was way below cannabis. And I was like, that's interesting because they hold a patent for cannabis. No one's ever died from cannabis, and I use cannabis every day. So then after that, I started researching more of the effects and like what happens with it. So then April Fool's came around, and me and my buddy willingly took it instead. So we actually all just took LSD together and had our first experience. And then after that, I found out, oh wait, psilocybin's like supposedly less dangerous than LSD, and it's like down here, and it's got all these other benefits and stuff supposedly. So then when I tried that, it was, even less scary because LSD was like a holy cow, I have no idea. And then we had someone show up, and the set and setting shifted. And it turned from a great experience into instantly a not great experience for the three of us.
Yeah.
And we ended up sending this other person home. The three of us needed to separate to our own areas. And about 20 minutes later, we all came back together and we're just fine. But it was like this thing of that set and setting. Someone came in, the energy changed, everything changed, and it instantly became oh crap, we didn't trust the person who showed up. And it instantly put in this fear of trust of like, wait, do we trust this person? Do we trust this other person? I was like, I've known this kid since kindergarten. Like, I've known him for 30 years. We've been friends for a long, long time. Like, I know who this person is. And as we, came out of that, it became like we were just fine. And we had some really profound, incredible discussions. And it was just like, what the hell? But you think about those things and they're these drugs or scary, terrible things that we're taught never to try growing up or to stay away from because it, fries your brain or makes you stupid or, ruins your life.
Yes.
So
all of that.
All of the above.
All of it.
Don't do drugs, okay?
None of us are productive in this call.
Riley, what's been one of the most rewarding things for you being in the cannabis industry?
I think just being able to represent stoners in such a positive light and start to bring that word back to us. I think for a long time, the word stoner was thought of as, this really negative connotation type thing to represent a daily cannabis user. And I think our data, we can, as I mentioned before, like use it as advocacy to kind of represent that stoners aren't what our society wants us to think stoners are. Stoners are productive. Stoners are CEOs. Stoners are doctors. Stoners are, all of these people in our society, and just normalizing cannabis as a medicine, because I've gotten a lot of hate for just being as loud as I am about being a daily consumer and, using cannabis as much as I do. But at the end of the day, I have a successful career. I have a happy life. Like, I'm doing okay by my standards. And it's mainly, I shouldn't say mainly due to cannabis, but cannabis has been alongside for the entire journey. And I owe a lot to this medicinal plant. So just being able to represent her in a positive light, it feels really good for me.
That's cool to see, though, because like you said, the word stoner, we've tried to stay away from it because the stoner stigma has been so negative.
Yeah, I call myself a functional stoner. And they go, yeah. Is that true? Like, yeah, totally. It's not it's not a bad thing. And exactly, I think we just need to be more open about it, and that's what we do, that's what you do. And I think that's hilarious. You're getting smoke for that, just like because like, oh, you really should keep that down. Well, you really should use it, friend, because you're being a dick. Okay? Now, I'm going to go on stage and educate people while you sit back here and be a sour ass. All right.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah. And
why?
It's just cool. Like, our whole industry, everyone's loud and proud, or at least most people are. And just seeing the industry grow and more people feel comfortable with it. And even outside of the industry, people feeling more comfortable being open about it, because we are starting to get rid of that negative connotation with just using cannabis. But it's still here for sure. You'll know that if anybody around you, if you're smoking in a city or something and someone takes a whiff, there's always some faces about like, oh, not here, not in front of other people. And it's like, we don't
think
have
about
to
the children. Think about the children.
Yeah, as they're puffing on a cigarette, where like we know secondhand smoke is so dangerous.
That's terrible. That's funny. So Riley, where can our audience find you or get in touch with you if they want to check out your show, if they want to follow your social?
Yeah, all of my links are on my social pages, which are CannabiChem. So CannabiChem. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and my podcast is on all main streaming platforms, and that's called Bioactive, but it's also linked in my Instagram, and it has an Instagram of its own if you want to follow along.
Cool.
We'll actually put all those links down below, so you guys can start going towards those. Guys, go over there, sign up for the study. Absolutely. I mean, come on, you're helping science.
But not like governmental science, but like actual cannabis science supported by cannabis consumers to help cannabis consumers.
Yeah. The more information we have, the more we're going to be able to start getting more openness about this, and then we can start being able to change the products that we have to be more tailored towards what kind of experience we're seeking. So everybody, thank you so much for being here today. Riley, this is awesome. I see a long-term friendship between us.
And for everyone at home, we love you guys.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Week.